Midnight visitor. The first time it happened, Julian Mercer thought he was dreaming. 3 months into his assignment aboard the Horizon Research Station orbiting Jupiter, the isolation had begun taking its toll. The blue-white glow of distant stars through his viewport was his only companion. Most nights, until she appeared. Julian woke to the strange sensation of being watched. His quarters remained dim, illuminated only by the emergency floor lights and Jupiter's distant glow. That's when he saw her, a figure standing silently at the foot of his sleeping pod. "Hello, Julian Mercer," she whispered. Her voice like wind through crystal chimes. Julian's training should have triggered alarm. But something in her presence felt Toming. She appeared almost human, with delicate features framed by hair that shifted colors like an aurora. Only her eyes, completely black with pinpricks of light like stars, revealed her otherworldly nature. "I am Nyx," she continued, her lips not quite matching her words. "I've traveled far to find you." Julian sat up slowly. "How did you get aboard? How do you know my name? Your vessel's barriers cannot stop my kind. We exist differently." She moved closer, each step graceful and weightless. "I know you because you are special. Compatible." The word hung between them, laden with meaning Julian couldn't grasp. He should have called security, should have triggered the containment protocols. Instead, he found himself asking, "Why me?" Nyx's expression softened. "Your frequencies match mine. Rare, across species. A connection most never experience." She extended her hand, hovering inches from his chest. Julian felt warmth spreading through him, an inexplicable sense of recognition, as if meeting someone he'd known his entire life. "Your people face danger," she whispered. "A cosmic event approaches that will devastate this system. My people have tracked it for centuries. Why not approach our governments? Our scientists? They wouldn't understand. Wouldn't believe?" Her star-filled eyes reflected Jupiter's glow. "But you can feel the truth in my words, can't you?" Julian could. Beyond reason, beyond science, he sensed her sincerity like a physical touch. "Show me," he said. Nyx's fingers finally made contact with his chest, directly over his heart. The sensation was electric, intimate, overwhelming. Images flooded Julian's mind, a massive dark matter storm approaching their solar system. It's invisible to human instruments, but catastrophic in its path. When the connection broke, Julian gasped. "How long?" 27 days, she answered. "I need your help to save both our worlds." "Why would you care about saving ours?" Nyx moved closer, her face now inches from his. "Because our fates are intertwined, just as we are now." She leaned forward, her lips brushing his ear. "There is so much I must tell you," she whispered. "Things that will change everything you believe about your place in this universe." Julian felt the truth of her words resonating through his very atoms. As the light of distant stars illuminated her otherworldly beauty, he knew his life would never be the same. Unspoken bond on aboard the Horizon was artificial, a gradual brightening of cabin lights simulating Earth's sunrise. Julian woke with the lingering sensation of Nyx's presence, wondering if their midnight encounter had been a vivid dream. The subtle shimmer in the air beside his workstation proved otherwise. "Still here," he said, watching as Nyx's form materialized more fully. "I never left," she replied. "My physical form needed to recalibrate. Your atmosphere requires adjustment." Julian approached cautiously. "No one else has seen you?" "I can control who perceives me." Her eyes tracked his movements with curious intensity. "The connection we formed last night allows me to remain anchored to your reality." Connection. The word sparked memories of the electric touch, the flood of images, the sense of recognition that defied explanation. "You mentioned compatibility," Julian said, keeping his voice low despite the privacy of his quarters. "What does that mean exactly?" Nyx's expression softened. "My species forms psychic bonds with compatible beings. These connections transcend physical limitations, allowing us to share thoughts, emotions, experiences." "Compatible?" "Remarkably so." Her fingers reached toward him, stopping just short of contact. "May I show you?" Julian nodded, bracing himself for the intensity of their connection. When her fingertips touched his temple, the sensation was different, gentler, more controlled. "Can you hear my thoughts?" Her voice resonated directly in his mind. Julian gasped. "Yes. How is this possible?" "Your consciousness has a unique resonance frequency that harmonizes with mine. Exceedingly rare between different species, images flowed between them, glimpses of Nyx's homeworld. A planet orbiting a binary star system with crystalline cities that captured and refracted perpetual auroras." Julian felt her loneliness, her determination, her fascination with his world in return. She experienced his memories, childhood in New Zealand, years of astronaut training, the awe of first seeing Earth from orbit. When they separated, Julian steadied himself against his desk. "That was intimate," Nyx finished. "I apologize if it overwhelmed you. No, it was ... Julian searched for words. "Beautiful." Over the next days, they established a rhythm. Julian maintained his regular duties while Nyx remained invisible to others. In private moments, they connected, sharing knowledge about the approaching dark matter storm. "My people call it the Void Tempest," Nyx explained during one session. "It consumes energy, including the electromagnetic fields protecting your planets. How do we stop it? We need to create a resonance barrier." Her eyes met his. "Using our connection as its foundation?" Julian understood the implication. "That's why you needed someone compatible. Our bond is the key." Nyx nodded, her expression grave. "But strengthening it further requires deeper connection." That night, as Jupiter's glow bathed his quarters in amber light, their connection transcended the merely psychic. As Nyx's form pressed against his, Julian felt the boundaries between them dissolve. Not just minds merging, but something more profound. "I never experienced this with anyone," Julian whispered against her luminescent skin. Nyx replied, her voice resonating within and around him. "Our bond grows stronger than I anticipated." In the afterglow of their connection, a troubling thought surfaced in Julian's mind. "You didn't tell me everything about the barrier, did you?" he asked softly. Nyx's silence was answer enough. "Stellar Secrets, there's a section of the station you haven't shown me," Nyx said 3 days later, her form shimmering beside Julian as he reviewed astronomical data. Julian glanced up, surprised. "How would you know that?" "Our connection? I can sense spaces through your memories." Her star-filled eyes held a curious intensity. "A secure laboratory in the North Quadrant?" Julian tensed. "That's classified. Even I need special clearance." "It contains something important," Nyx insisted. "Something that resonates with frequencies similar to my people's technology." The request troubled Julian. Their bond had deepened dramatically, but accessing restricted areas could end his career, or worse. Yet the approaching Void Tempest left little room for protocol. Tonight he finally agreed. During shift change, navigating the station's security systems proved surprisingly simple with Nyx's guidance. Her ability to manipulate electromagnetic fields disabled cameras long enough for Julian to use his emergency credentials. The laboratory contained a single sealed chamber at its center. Inside, suspended in a containment field, floated a crystalline object no larger than Julian's palm. "The resonance heart," Nyx whispered, her form becoming more vibrant in proximity to the artifact. "We believed it lost millennia ago." "What is it?" Julian asked, watching her circle the containment field with reverent movements. "A fragment of our ancestral homeworld's core. It can amplify psychic connections across vast distances." Her eyes met his. "Your people found it by accident, didn't they?" Julian nodded. "A Europa mining expedition. We've been studying it for years without understanding its purpose." "Its purpose," Nyx said softly, "is to save us both." With delicate precision, Nyx guided Julian through the process of deactivating the containment field. The moment the crystal floated free, it began to pulse with internal light that matched the rhythm of Julian's heartbeat. "Recognizes you." "Through our bond," Nyx explained, wonder filling her voice. "Hold it." When Julian's fingers closed around the crystal, the connection between them exploded into new dimensions. Suddenly, he could see the approaching Void Tempest, as Nyx's people did. A vast maw of nothingness consuming everything in its path. We have less time than I thought, Nick said urgently. The storm has accelerated. In the privacy of Julian's quarters, they placed the crystal between them. As their connection deepened through physical touch, the artifact amplified their bond exponentially. Nyx's form began to shift, revealing more of her true nature, a being composed partly of light and energy, rather than purely physical matter. "You're beautiful," Julian whispered, reaching to touch the luminous patterns flowing across her skin. "As are you," she responded, her fingers tracing his features with newfound wonder. Their bodies intertwined, the crystal pulsing between them, their connection transcending physical sensation. In that moment of perfect unity, Nyx shared her final truth. "Creating the resonance barrier will require sacrifice," she whispered against his lips. "The energy needed to redirect the tempest." Julian completed her thought. "Will consume whoever initiates it." Her silence confirmed his understanding. "That's why you needed me," he said softly. "Not just for compatibility, but because one of us must... ... Both worlds cannot survive otherwise," Nyx answered, her form brightening with emotion. "I never intended to care for you this deeply." Julian pulled her closer, their foreheads touching as the crystal pulsed between them. "Then we'll find another way," he promised. "Together." Celestial sacrificer. Days remained before the void tempest would reach Jupiter's orbit. The Horizon Station had received emergency evacuation orders. Though Earth scientists remained baffled by readings their instruments had only just detected. "They're seeing only shadows of what's coming," Nyx explained, as they worked in Julian's quarters, the resonance heart floating between them. "The true danger remains invisible to your technology." Julian's fingers moved through holographic calculations projected from his personal console. "If we position ourselves at these coordinates during the storm's approach, the gravitational amplification could boost the barrier's strength, and likely tear us both apart in the process," Nyx countered, her form flickering with concern. They had barely slept, searching desperately for a solution that wouldn't require sacrificing either of them. Their bond had grown so profound that Nyx could now maintain physical presence without effort, though she remained invisible to others. "What if we split the resonance?" Julian suggested suddenly. "Divide the burden between us?" Nyx's expression brightened momentarily before falling. "It would still be fatal, just ... slower." Julian's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining as they had countless times over recent days. Each touch reinforced their connection, making separation increasingly difficult. "There must be something we've missed," Julian insisted. A chime from his console interrupted them. Evacuation procedures were beginning. They had 12 hours before Julian would be forced to board a transport or face disciplinary action. "We need to move now," Nyx said decisively. "I've prepared a shuttle." Julian raised an eyebrow. "You've prepared a shuttle?" Her expression held the hint of a smile. "Your systems are remarkably simple to influence when one exists partially as electromagnetic energy." The small research vessel separated from Horizon's docking bay with fabricated authorization codes. As they accelerated toward the calculated intercept point, Julian felt a strange peace settling over him. "I've been thinking," he said, the resonance heart pulsing steadily in his palm. "What if the crystal itself could serve as a vessel?" Nyx turned to him, her star-filled eyes widening. "A consciousness anchor?" "Exactly. If one of us has to be sacrificed to power the barrier, perhaps their consciousness could remain within the crystal." Hope and sorrow mingled in Nyx's expression. "It's never been attempted across different species." "Theoretically possible? Yes," she admitted, "though whoever remains physical would bear the burden of separation." The unspoken question hung between them. Which of them would surrender their physical form? As they reached the intercept coordinates, the first tendrils of the void tempest became visible even to human eyes. Darkness against darkness, defined only by the stars it extinguished. "It should be me," they both said simultaneously. Julian took her hands. "Your people need you to bring this knowledge back, and yours need you to help them understand what they've witnessed," Nyx countered. The shuttle's sensors screamed warnings as the tempest's outer edge reached them. Time had run out. "Together, then," Julian decided, "we'll both imprint on the crystal and let it decide." As the darkness enveloped their small vessel, they pressed their foreheads together, the resonance heart cradled between them. Their connection flared to blinding intensity as the barrier began to form around them. The last thing Julian remembered was Nyx's voice, both outside and inside him. "Whatever happens, find me again." Whispered eternity. Julian woke in a horizon medical bay, bright lights assaulting his eyes. According to the medical officer, he'd been found unconscious in a shuttle that had somehow navigated back to the station through what scientists were now calling an unprecedented dark matter anomaly. "You're lucky to be alive," the doctor commented. "The radiation levels should have been lethal." Julian said nothing, his hand instinctively reaching for his chest, where the resonance heart now rested, somehow fused partially within him, invisible to scanners, yet pulsing with familiar warmth. "Nyx," he called silently, desperately. The emptiness that answered nearly broke him. Days passed as Julian recovered, debriefed by increasingly high-ranking officials about his unauthorized research expedition. The dark matter storm had miraculously divided around Jupiter's orbit before dissipating, a phenomenon that defied all known physics. Julian provided technical explanations that satisfied their questions. Without revealing the truth, he couldn't explain Nyx or their connection to people who would see her people as either threats or research subjects. Nights were the hardest. The silence in his mind where her presence had been left an ache deeper than any physical wound. Julian would hold the partially embedded crystal, feeling its warmth but unable to reestablish their connection. 2 weeks after returning to Earth, Julian woke to a familiar sensation. The crystal in his chest burned with sudden intensity, pulling him from sleep. "Hello, Julian Mercer," came a whisper that existed both in the air and within his mind. Julian's eyes flew open to see a shimmering outline at the foot of his bed, not fully corporeal, but undeniably her. "Nyx," he gasped, reaching out instinctively. "Not entirely," she replied, her form flickering like starlight through water. "But not gone either." Julian's fingers passed through her hand, yet he felt the echo of connection. "How? The crystal preserved more than we hoped," she explained. "My consciousness survived, though my physical form did not." "You sacrificed yourself," Julian whispered, tears forming, "to save both our worlds." Her form brightened momentarily. "As did you in part. The crystal now connects us across dimensions. I exist between realities. Can you stay?" Hope made his voice tremble. "Not constantly," she admitted. "Maintaining this form requires tremendous energy, but I can return." Again and again, Julian moved closer, his hand hovering near her shimmering outline. "I'll find a way to bring you back completely. Perhaps." Her star-filled eyes held both sadness and wonder. "Or perhaps we've discovered something more profound than physical existence." When she leaned forward to whisper in his ear, Julian felt the ghost of sensation, molecules of air moving in patterns that mimicked touch. "We've transcended the boundaries between our species," she whispered. "Neither fully separated nor united, but something entirely new." The words she spoke next, the revelation about what their bond had truly created and what it would mean for both their civilizations, changed everything Julian understood about existence. As dawn broke, her form faded, but the warmth in his chest remained, a promise that their story was far from over. Their connection now spanned dimensions, an impossible bridge between worlds that would forever alter the course of human and alien history. Julian smiled as he watched the sunrise, knowing that somewhere between stars and silence, she waited for him. And every night, she would return to whisper secrets of eternity in his ear, words he would never forget.